All right, so today we're diving into a place that's known for being haunted. Chaonei No, 81, in Beijing. Have you heard of this?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's hard to miss actually. You see pictures of it and it's this big Baroque-style mansion, all weathered stone, dark windows. Kind of sticks out, you know?
Yeah, yeah. It's weird because it's not like out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
It's like right in the city.
Prime real estate. Yeah, and it's just sitting there empty. And it's been empty for decades. People have all these stories about it.
So that's kind of what we're going to look at today.
Mhm.
We've had a lot of requests to deep dive on Chaonei No 81.
Oh yeah.
And we're gonna look at the legends and the history, maybe even a little bit of like the psychology of architecture
Sure.
to see if we could figure out like why this place is so creepy.
Yeah, well, I mean, probably the most famous ghost story about the place is pretty typical, right? It's the abandoned woman, the wife or lover of a nationalist officer, and he had to flee to Taiwan back during the Civil War.
Oh, so she's just left there all alone.
Yeah, exactly. And so the story goes that she killed herself inside the mansion.
Oh, wow.
And now her ghost is trapped there. People say that you can still hear her crying.
Oh, no.
Especially during storms, like thunderstorms.
That's so sad.
It is a sad story, but I think the interesting thing is when this supposedly happened, the Civil War, it was such a crazy time in China, so much upheaval.
Yeah.
Do you think that maybe like the story, whether it's true or not, just reflects all the anxieties of the time?
Like the mansion's a canvas, right? And people are just projecting their fears onto it.
Exactly.
Okay. So then later, we've got the Cultural Revolution, and the Red Guards took over the mansion.
Oh, yeah. And, those guys, they didn't believe in superstition or anything.
Right. They were all about, like, materialism and stuff.
Yeah. But even they had stories about Chaonei No, 81. Stuff that they saw there that scared them.
They were scared of it.
Enough to make them leave. Cut their stay short.
Wow. I mean, it makes you wonder if there are places that are just, like, creepy no matter what you believe,
Right.
Like something deeper is going on.
Yeah, but before we get too into the, like, spooky stuff, I think we need to consider the house itself. The building.
Oh, you mean like the architecture?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a pretty dramatic building, like Baroque.
Right.
Right. Lots of shadows and fancy details. Just by itself, that could make people feel uneasy.
Right. Even without the ghosts.
Exactly. Think about how your surroundings can affect how you feel. Like a big, dark room with a bunch of little spaces is always going to be creepier than a bright, open room.
Right.
Right. And
Yeah.
the Baroque style, it's already kind of focused on, like, opulence.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, a little macabre,
Okay, yeah.
So maybe those things are making the mystery even bigger.
It's like the house is designed to mess with your head a little bit. But then there's the story of the construction workers who disappeared. That one's always freaked me out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That one's interesting because it's hard to say if it's folklore or if it really happened.
Right.
The story is these three guys, they were drinking or something, and they decided to break into Chaonei No 81.
Oh,
And nobody ever saw them again.
wow.
Poof. Gone.
So do we know if, like, anyone looked for them or filed a missing person report?
Well, that's the thing. There's no official record of any of that.
Really?
So some people say it's just a story,
Right.
a legend. But if that's true, like, why has the story stuck around for so long? Why is it so popular?
It's like it speaks to some kind of, like, basic fear,
Right.
Like the fear of just, like, vanishing, not knowing what happened.
Or the fear of what's hiding in the shadows.
Right.
And the thing is, people are always looking for patterns and explanations. So even if there isn't any real evidence, we might make up a story to explain something.
Right. Right. Okay, so we've got this tragic love story and political stuff and a creepy building and then people going missing.
It's like every time you think you understand it, you find something else weird.
There's just like layers and layers of weirdness.
Yeah, and we haven't even talked about the stuff that people say they see and hear around the mansion, like, chills and whispers and stuff like that.
Ooh, spooky.
But maybe we'll get to that later.
Okay, so, like, has this place always had this reputation? Has it always been seen as haunted?
It's hard to say for sure. The history's a little murky on that. There are, like, some mentions of weird things happening in the early 1900s, but, like, it seems like the stories really took off after the Cultural Revolution.
almost like all the chaos kind of like supercharged the place, right? Or at least how people felt about it.
Maybe, yeah. It's like it became this symbol of everything that was unsettling about that time.
And then the city's changing all around it, but this house just stays the same.
Yeah, exactly. A reminder of the past. So speaking of stories, what about all the stuff that people claim to feel and hear at Chaonei No 81? We were talking about that earlier.
Right, like the temperature drop, I've heard about that. Like even when it's super hot out, people say it gets cold near the mansion.
Mm-hmm. Classic haunted house stuff, right? A cold spot means there's a ghost.
But like, couldn't it just be the way the building is made? Or maybe the airflow or something?
Oh, totally. Old buildings can be weird. You get these little microclimates, pockets of cold air, like a cave.
Okay, so maybe it's not ghosts, just science.
Right. And then there are the sounds. People say they hear whispers, footsteps, even like sad music sometimes coming from inside.
I mean, isn't that just the wind? Or animals?
Could be. Or in an old house, the pipes can make all sorts of noises. And sound is tricky, right? Especially in a big, empty place. Your brain wants to make sense of things. So you might hear something random and turn it into a ghost in your head.
It's like seeing shapes in the clouds.
Exactly. But even if some of it's just our imagination, it's still interesting that these stories are so persistent. Why are people so drawn to the idea of this place being haunted?
Which I think we need those mysteries, right?
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe we just like a good scare. And don't forget about that movie that came out a few years ago, The House That Never Dies.
Oh, yeah. That was a big hit, right?
Mm-hmm. It brought a whole new wave of attention to Chaonei No 81. But who knows how much of the movie was actually based on real events?
It's like, did the movie make the legend more popular or the legend make the movie more popular?
Yeah, it's all tangled up together. But even with all that, there's still the question of why the mansion is still abandoned.
Right. You'd think in Beijing someone would have bought that place by now. It's
Yeah.
like prime real estate.
You'd think. They could turn it into a hotel or apartments. But every time someone tries to redevelop it, something falls through. Yeah. Some people say it's just bureaucracy, permits and stuff. But others say that it's because of the mansion's reputation. Like people are too scared to mess with it.
It's like the house is saying, leave me alone.
Mm-hmm. And then there's the Catholic Church. Did you know they own Chaonei No?
Right.
81.
The church? Seriously?
Yep. They've owned it for years. And they say that all the ghost stories are nonsense. There's no proof.
So we've got people who think it's haunted, people who think it's not, and now the church is in the middle of it all.
Yeah, it's a mess. But it also makes you wonder why they haven't done anything with the place, right?
Right. If they don't believe the stories, why not sell it? It's like they want to keep it a secret or something.
It does make you wonder what they know.
It's like everyone's got a piece of this puzzle, but no one knows the whole picture.
So after all this, where are you landing? Do you think Chaonei 81 is really haunted?
I don't know. It's hard to say. What about you? Have you made up your mind?
Well, I try to keep an open mind, but I also like to look for rational explanations,
Yeah, me too. But some of this stuff is just, like, really weird. I mean, imagine, like, picture yourself standing outside the mansion. It's nighttime.
Ooh, spooky.
And it's hot out, right? It's summer in Beijing. But as you get closer to the house, you start to feel this cold.
I'd get chills for sure.
And maybe you hear something like a whisper.
Yeah.
But you can't tell if it's just the wind.
Oh, man. I don't know if I could handle that.
Would you go in?
I'd have to think about that. It's like, is it just your imagination or is it something more?
That's the question, isn't it?
We might never know for sure.
And maybe that's okay. Maybe that's what makes it so fascinating. I mean, even if you don't believe in ghosts, Chaonei 81 is still this, reminder of how much we don't know.
Yeah, it's a mystery. It makes you think about all the stories we tell ourselves about history and about the world.
Exactly. And sometimes the best stories are the ones that don't have a neat ending. So next time you hear a spooky story, whether it's about Chaonei No or 81 or something else, just remember, the truth might be out there.
Mm-hmm.
But the fun is in trying to find it.
Keep exploring. Keep asking questions. Who knows what you might discover?
That's all for this deep dive. See you next time.